Minority Leader Hortman, thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure.
This year, number 2 of your first biennial session as leader of the DFL caucus. How would you describe your experience up to this point?
Well, it's been busy. There's definitely a lot to learn when you're the leader. It's a little bit different than when you're an individual member. Usually as an individual member, you're very focused on your district and the issue areas where you tend to have more expertise and more activity. But as the leader of the caucus, I find I am learning more about more topics.
And this has not been a typical interim. What are your thoughts on how things have played out since adjourning this special session in May?
Well, I think it's really interesting that the governor line item vetoed the legislative budget and that the legislature reacted so strongly to that line item veto. There have certainly been incidents in the past where the legislature has not funded the executive branch and brought the state to shutdown. And we've had state executive branch employees not getting paid. And when this same tactic was then turned around on the legislature, suddenly this is a tactic that is beyond the pale. And I think it's useful that the governor did that because we're now talking about taking employees off the table as a negotiating tactic, whether they're executive branch employees or legislative branch employees.
Do you think the legislature and the governor will be able to work together effectively in 2018?
Yes, there's a big difference between disagreeing on policy and not being able to work together. We are a conflict-laden institution by design. The founding fathers wanted us to have a clash of ideas, and the best ideas would come out from the compromises of two hard-fought sides of a battle. So I think people need to not be concerned by the conflict. A lot of people don't like politics because there's conflict in it, but that's by design.
There's speculation that the first bill brought up for a vote this session will be to restore legislative funding for the 18-19 biennium. Will DFL members support this if it's a clean bill?
I don't think it should be our first order of business. I think we really have to look at the fiscal condition of the state and the other items of business that were left unfinished at the end of last year and during the interim. So I think we need to take a balanced look and not put ourselves in front of every other priority in the state and make sure that the first thing that we do for the state of Minnesota is in the interest of all of the employees and the residents of the state and not just looking out for the legislature.
A nearly $1 billion bonding package was passed last year. However, the second year of the biennium traditionally focuses on a bonding bill. Governor Dayton has proposed a $1.5 billion package for 2018. Republicans say that's too much. What would you like a bonding bill to look like in terms of dollars and projects, and what is your outlook on the governor's proposal?
I think the governor's proposal is very responsible. It would create 32,000 good-paying jobs for Minnesota families, and that's really important in an economy where the super rich are doing just fine. Those who work in the financial sector are doing just fine, but middle-class families are having a hard time. In my school districts, there's more children in poverty than ever before. So creating those middle-class jobs is a very high priority for us in the DFL, and we share the governor's sense that it's time for a big and a bold bonding bill. The biggest reason to go big this year is the projected increase in interest rates. So if you were looking at taking out a mortgage, you would want to lock in at the lowest possible interest rate, and you would want to get the most possible house. That would be the best use of your dollars as a family. In the same way, the state needs to take a look at the interest rates right now and put forth an aggressive bonding bill, take care of all those unmet needs for repair and maintenance while the interest rates are low and before they get higher.
In the wake of sexual harassment allegations, the House has announced a new Workplace Safety and Respect Subcommittee. There is also harassment training scheduled early in session that the Speaker is basically requiring members to attend. Is the House doing enough to address sexual harassment?
Well, we'll see. The proof will be in the pudding of the subcommittee's work. I haven't seen any agendas yet. I haven't seen any notices for any meetings. So it's one thing to establish a subcommittee, but what really matters is what the work of the subcommittee is and how aggressively we pursue answers to the questions we need. And the things we need answers for: how are we going to protect people who come into the Capitol who are not employees and members? How are we going to make sure that they have a complaint mechanism that's fair to those making the allegations and to those who are accused of potential wrongdoing?
And what other issues or priorities would your caucus like to focus on in 2018?
Well, we have the federal tax conformity bill ahead of us, and that will be a pretty meaty piece of work. The federal tax bill was kind of thrown together in a very rushed fashion at the federal level, and it's enormous. It basically constitutes a $1.5 trillion transfer from the super rich, or from the middle class to the super rich and corporations. And so what I'm hoping here at the state level is that we can craft some provisions that restore some balance and give some tax cuts to middle-class families and benefit them, and have some permanent tax cuts for middle-class families instead of favoring just the super rich and corporations.